Welcome to the Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association Final Score podcast, assisting the development of players, coaches, referees, and administrators one episode at a time. Now, here's your host, Marcus Cole.
Welcome to the podcast. We have a great show on tap today. Excited to welcome Dr. Amy Bender, sleep scientist. Dr. Bender, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I even wore my World Cup jersey here.
See, that's very, very appropriate. For those that do not know, Dr. Bender went down to the Women's World Cup in Australia and was down there to celebrate, had a bunch of pictures with the World Cup trophy and all the fun that she had down there. And if you don't follow her on social media, you certainly need to do so, because that's where you'll see all that cool stuff. But we're going to dive right into the podcast. We're going to talk about sleep for our young soccer players. And we have the time change coming up, and want to be able to provide them with as much information and as much assistance as we can to minimize the disruption, because I know as an older person, having the time change really messes me up. I can only imagine what it does for, I'm sure they're able to adapt a little bit better than I would, but let's go ahead and dive right in. Can you talk to us a little bit about circadian rhythm, the role in sleep, and that performance for young athletes?
Absolutely. Circadian rhythms, they're kind of two main systems that help regulate our sleep-wake cycle. The first one is just related to how long you've been awake. We call it the homeostatic system. The second system is related to circadian rhythms. So circa, meaning about, dia, meaning day. So our circadian rhythms are about 24 hours. So that means that we have levels of fluctuations of alertness, sleepiness throughout the day. We have melatonin that's being released across a 24-hour cycle. So there's a lot of different biological systems that follow these circadian rhythms. And something like a time change, daylight saving time, going back to standard time, or even if we're traveling time zones, can impact our circadian rhythms and can impact when we're sleepy and when we're alert, depending on how quickly we can adapt.
Yeah, there's lots of changes and lots of nuances when it comes to circadian rhythms, and it's very interesting if you go out and start to study and learn more about all that. Talk to us a little bit how the shift from daylight savings time back to standard time will affect the sleep patterns and overall sleep quality of our young players.
Well, the fall back, so the shift back to standard time, is actually one of the easiest to adapt to, because we do gain an hour. So that means if you normally go to bed at, let's say, 9 p.m., you wake up at 7 a.m. Now we're falling back, so it's more like 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So it is easier for us to adapt to the fall back shift in daylight and the ending of daylight saving time. So that's good news for people. And I think one of the things we can gain here is we can gain more sleep when we do fall back, if we're able to go to bed at our usual time before the time change, and try to wake up closer to our usual time on the clock. And so that'll help get us some extra sleep for this time change.
Yeah, and catch up. I know a lot of players right now are finishing up seasons and getting ready to probably go into another indoor season. They've got academics that they're dealing with, as we head into midterm season. So lots going on that, and then this comes on top of it, affecting sleep, kind of a little bit of a struggle for them. Do you have any specific strategies or recommendations for these players to transition smoothly? I know that you mentioned about maybe trying to cheat it a little bit and kind of prepare a little bit more, but is there any other tips or strategies that you have?
Personally, I think just trying to go to bed at your regular time will help, especially like the Saturday before the time changes. So just go to bed at your regular time, try and get up at your regular time. That'll help kind of, get a bit more extra sleep for these adolescent athletes who really need that extra sleep, because, they're sleep deprived across the school week and then trying to catch up on sleep over the weekend. Now, if let's say you're not very tired, the following days, you could go to bed maybe 15 minutes later than usual. And that'll hopefully still get you some extra sleep. So for the springtime change, we want to go to bed earlier, 15 minutes so that we can really adjust quickly. For the fall time change, it's a bit easier, but still, trying to go to bed at your regular time. If not, maybe a little bit later, because that would be our kind of normal time prior to the time change. So really trying to just bank some extra sleep, which is going to help with academic performance, athletic performance, is kind of my go-to tip there.
Excellent. We're talking to Dr. Amy Bender, sleep scientist, here on the podcast. Now, I know you're not a nutritionist, but do you have any dietary or nutritional considerations that might be able to assist in helping them adapt to this time change?
Yes, actually, timing of meals. So trying to keep the timing of meals similar to what it was previously will also help you adapt. So anytime we're changing time zones, we have the shift in daylight saving time. We want to try and eat on the local time zone. So having your lunch at that local time, which is easy with school, that doesn't really change. But even on the weekends, trying to keep your meal timing regular at the usual time that you would normally eat is a piece of advice that'll help people transition more quickly.
One thing I love about your advice is, and it's very uniform across most everything that we talk about when it comes to sleep, is consistency, which is so important. Keeping that consistency when it comes to your sleep will make things so much easier. As we kind of wrap things up here on the podcast, what advice can you offer coaches and parents? We don't normally talk about this. We talk directly right to the athletes of what they can do, but what can coaches and parents offer as support players in maintaining the healthy sleep habits of their kids and their athletes during this transition?
Yes, great question. I think just checking in with your teens, your preteens, your children, about how they're doing, how they're sleeping. And even as a coach, you can also check in as well. And then for those that are really struggling, we want to make sure that they get the help that they need. So really trying to, talk to your general practitioner, get a referral to a sleep clinic so that you can get these potential issues hashed out, because a lot of people aren't aware that sleep disorders do occur in children as well. And so it's not just an adult sleep disorder. We have children who have sleep apnea, where they're stopping breathing during the middle of the night. They may have insomnia. So getting them the help that they need by getting a referral to a sleep clinic is going to be key for these teens, preteens, children.
And we are excited to be welcoming Dr. Bender to our Mass Youth Soccer 50th anniversary workshop in collaboration with the New England Revolution. We're excited to have you. You're going to be one of our presenters, giving some wonderful sleep advice to our coaches, administrators, and players. What can you kind of, without kind of giving away the whole thing, can you tell us just a quick synopsis about what your session is going to be about? And that's going to be coming up on Saturday, February 3rd at Gillette Stadium. Tell us a little bit about your session.
I'm very excited to be there. I'm pumped. I want to be able to get some information out to the attendees about a little bit about the science of sleep, to kind of help you understand why sleep is important, how it's the specific reasons of why it's important for an athlete specifically as it relates to performance, as it relates to injury risk, overall physical health, nutrition, those kind of things. And then, of course, want to top it off with very practical tips that can help you sleep better. So that's just kind of a bit of a synopsis, and hope to see a lot of people there.
Yeah, we're excited, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you think, because honestly, I think this way, I think sleep is one of the most underutilized areas for development of players and their performance on the field as well as in the classroom. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree. And if we just look at like even professional teams at the top level, they have strength and conditioning coaches, they have access to nutritionists, they have, chefs that help the team. But rarely do they have, a sleep expert on staff. And so I think this is a very underutilized area that is gaining a lot of momentum. And I think it's the number one performance enhancing tool out there.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bender, for coming on to the program today, talking to us about sleep and helping our athletes transition better as we fall back here very, very soon. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association Final Score podcast. Remember to give our podcast a 5-star rating. This will help get the word out to others and let them know about our program. Copyright 2023. All rights reserved.